What's going on, everybody? It is that time again, the Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 193.
193.
On this Monday, July 21st, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green with you. 40 days until kickoff. Oklahoma, Illinois State at the stadium. We are getting close. Fall camp next week. We're going to start our position preview series today. That's one of our personal benchmarks here at Sooners Illustrated that we're getting close is the position preview series. We're going to start it today. Quarterbacks and running backs, going to lay out the position, get into all of it. We'll also get ahead of the season a little bit. Biggest concerns for the season, what keeps you up at night if you're an OU fan. We'll just dissect that a little bit as well, and got some news on the AD search front a little bit today also that will kind of come through as well. So a lot to get into on a Monday, getting to the later part of July, fall camp coming up. It's a beautiful time of year. Reminder again, subscribe, Oakland.247sports.com. Promo code SoonersPod60. All one word, capital S, capital P. I don't know if it's case sensitive, but if just in case it is, capital S, capital P, SoonersPod60. That's 60% off an annual subscription to Sooners Illustrated right now. You can do that, sign up. Fall camp's about to start. Recruiting's still going. The season's coming. Perfect time. Phenomenal deal, obviously. 60% off a yearly subscription. SoonersPod60. I'll remind everyone later on in the show as well, but I want to keep pumping that. SoonersPod60. Sign up. Do it. Great time of year. Fall camp and all that good stuff. Fellas, how are we feeling? We're getting, media days in the rear view, fall camp next week. How are things going right now? Are you kind of soaking in the last little bit of summer right now? That's what you should be doing because it's about to get really very soon.
Yeah, I mean, trying to enjoy this last little bit of downtime, but preemptively exhausted before the season even gets started. But I'm excited. Always good to get rolling again.
Yeah, I'm excited for this season. I mean, we're going to talk about it throughout this position preview. I think a lot of good things happened for Oklahoma in the offseason. A lot of different additions that they brought in that I think are going to really help this program. So I'm really excited about it. It's kind of been on my mind as we're getting into it. I'm really thinking about it. Man, this could be a really fun year. So I'm just waiting to see what happens, man.
Yeah, I hate to almost admit it, really, but I'm preparing myself to be hurt again. I'm kind of buying in. Last year was such a disaster, but I think me and really everyone that covers the team, and certainly OU fans, are starting to kind of feel like they might be all right. Last week in media days, the hype train is going. The national media is all over OU, which is crazy, and certainly John Mateer as well. So the hype is starting to build a little bit. Excited to get there. We're getting closer to the start of the season and starting to pick up next week. Before we get into position previews, like we mentioned, which is one of our big kind of signals that we're getting close to the start of the year, I wanted to bring up first up here that today they announced the committee for the new AD search. It's a 12-team committee, which Joe Harris said at the press conference of Joe C's retirement that he would let us know. And I think we all kind of thought, you're not going to tell us nothing. We're not going to know anybody that's going to be on that committee. They actually did announce it today, and it's quite a group. I wanted to just bring it up because the names on here are something. Now, a lot of these names are going to be names that probably OU fans aren't either super familiar with or just vaguely familiar with. Mm-hmm. But some of them are extremely well-known OU legends, including Bob Stoops, Sam Bradford, Sherry Cole, and Kinsey Hansen is on this thing as well. Guys, real quick, this was quite a group here. Bob Stoops, I guess, not a total stunner. Maybe not even Sherry Cole either, but Sam Bradford and Kinsey Hansen on there as well. Quite a group here for the search committee to help lead the charge. And they're going to work with a search firm to help find. And Randall Stevenson is leading the charge. He's on the committee as well, so he's going to kind of lead at everything. Joe Harris will obviously be heavily involved also. But quite a group here. What jumped out to you when you guys saw this list? Because for me, it was, I didn't expect such heavy hitter former athletes and coaches to be on this thing.
Yeah, obviously a pretty extensive group there, kind of wide ranging. When they announced it, they said it was representing a lot of different aspects of the university, not just the athletics department, but you have people in the administration at the university. You have professor, like a law professor, and other people who are involved in the school, all involved in this search. And I'm interested to see kind of how it plays out. Obviously, like you mentioned, they're going to be retaining a search firm, and really the search firm is going to be doing the heavy lifting here.
Sure.
They're going to be identifying candidates and bringing them to this committee to kind of weigh their resumes and bring them in for interviews and all that stuff, and kind of see how everything shakes out. But it's definitely a wide breadth of experiences, both from, like you said, people who have coached before, former athletes who have played at the university and dealt with athletics directors from that standpoint, other people around the university who deal with the athletics department too. So they're approaching it from all these different angles that really going to cover their bases, it seems.
Yeah, it shows that they're being very detailed about this search. Like, listen, this is something Oklahoma hasn't done in 28 years. So, like, there's no they don't know the right way. I mean, necessarily how to go about it. And so you just get every voice that you can from all different sports, former stars, different guys in the front office. You add all those guys together, and you would think that could find the right guy, the right person for this next job. It's very important, as Oklahoma knows, with all the changes that are happening in college sports. You got to get this hire right. And so it just shows that they're being very detailed about it. And so I think I like that it's 12 different names, even though I don't know how it's going to work, how all those different voices, but it shows what they're trying to do. They're trying to be very detailed. They're trying to get everybody's perspective from their individual sports and how they can, be advanced from there. So it looks like it's pretty good for me overall.
Yeah. And really, it's 13 or 14 people plus the search firm because, like you said, Joe Harris is going to have his fingerprints on this. Joe C is going to be helping in an advisory role too. So they've got all their bases covered again.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Tom's got the story on Sooners Illustrated of the full listed names. If you want to go check out all of it, you kind of can see that they really do kind of cover their bases here in trying to just cover a lot of ground of various different angles of, who's representing what group, why they're on the committee, right? And that, so it is quite a group here. And, initially, honestly, when you see Kinsey Hansen, it's like, man, she was playing here 2 seconds ago. Like, that kind of makes sense, right? Like a completely modern athlete. Like, obviously not someone who's literally still playing at OU right now, but she's 1 year removed, right? Like that kind of nice to have that representation. And cool to have Sam Bradford on there too. And, Sam is a guy that is someone who, it's just been cool the last couple of years to see him be a little more visible, be a little more around. He's a very private person, which is totally fine. I'm not poo-pooing that. Very private person. He was an Oklahoma kid. Obviously, played OU. He's a big-time player here, won a Heisman, all that. And he we didn't really see him a lot. Nobody really even knew what he was doing, what he was up to. In the last 2 years, he's been a little more involved. And now to be, on this search committee to find Joe C's replacement, that's kind of cool that Sam's getting a little more involved. So that jumped out to me certainly too, because that's just not a name that you've seen attached to a lot of OU things, since his playing days ended. So cool, just a cool thing. And it's quite a group. And again, the full list is over on Sooners Illustrated, and we'll see how that unfolds. It's just a little quick. I was a little surprised. That we already got it. The Joe C retirement was just, said a week or two ago. The time's already blurring together. It was 2 weeks ago, but they got the committee set, and so we'll see where they go from here. But fun group there for the search committee. All right, let's start to look ahead to the season a little bit. Obviously, we're getting really close now. Fall camp's next week. 40 days until the opener. You're starting to feel it. We're under 6 weeks, obviously, until they actually kick this thing off and play a game, which is kind of wild. What we do on Sooners Illustrated, if you have been with us the last couple of falls, first off, welcome aboard. Glad you found us. Secondly, the way this works, we go through each position. We do 2 at a time, the 3 of us here on the Monday show. And we kind of just talk about the names to know, guys that we are high on, questions we have with the position. And then we end it with a confidence rating, 1 to 10. How do we feel about that position group relative to the other ones, and just our overall confidence that position's going to be just fine, basically. And so we're going to start right at the top here. We're going to do quarterbacks and running backs today. We'll start with quarterbacks. Obviously, you got a new guy reading the show here, right? John Mateer steps in. He comes in from Washington State. He comes with offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle. You have Michael Hawkins back. He will be the backup, obviously, after playing some as a true freshman last year. Jackson Arnold transfers out. He's over at Auburn. You also added Whit Neubauer to kind of be the third string / probably do some garbage time to save Michael Hawkins' red shirt sort of a role. Guys, obviously it starts and ends with Mateer here. Quarterback play was horrible last year. As Brett Venables said himself at SEC Media Days, it wasn't all the quarterback's fault. The O-line was bad. All the receivers were hurt. The offensive coordinator situation, well documented. But quarterback play was also poor last year, right? But everyone is very high on John Mateer that he's going to be some guys, some national media are talking Heisman, level of guy here with John Mateer. This position, obviously, it's different than the other ones because it really comes down to one guy. But this room feels like it's in a much more stable place with John Mateer leading the charge this year, coming into 2025. Does it not?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a year ago when we were talking about this position, I think we all had a lot of confidence in the talent in that
Certainly.
room with
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold kind of leading the way. But I think the difference this year, I don't know, like some people might be a little hesitant to like go full bore and buy into this offense. But I think the difference this year is that you're bringing in a talented quarterback who's also experienced and has produced
Mhm.
at this level before. Not quite the SEC level. He was in the essentially the Pac-2 playing against largely a Group of Five schedule last year. But this is now his third year in Ben Arbuckle's offense. He was one of the most productive and dynamic quarterbacks in college football last season. Completed basically 65% of his passes, over 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns, averaged 9 yards per pass attempt. Was one of the tops in the nation in all those categories. And then you add in his dual threat abilities, where he rushed for 826 yards and 15 touchdowns, I believe it was, had more total touchdowns than anybody else in the country during the regular season. And the confidence has to be soaring when you kind of factor in his experience, his production, and his relationship with Ben Arbuckle, and just being intimately familiar with this offense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's the biggest thing is that John Mateer is going to have has Ben Arbuckle's system coming with him, and you have that experience in running that over and over again. It's going to help out a lot because you think the adjustment would just be to the athletes that are on the field. I mean, you would assume that the athletes a little bit longer, a little faster in the SEC compared to where he was. So that's where the biggest adjustment is going to be when it was what the Auburn quarterback from this upcoming season. I can't think of his name already for some reason.
Jackson Arnold.
Jackson Arnold, yeah, Jackson Arnold. when he came in, his offensive coordinator changed, and so that made a little bit
Yeah.
difference, along with all the offensive line and wide receiver issues. So having John Mateer come over and play well in this system is going to be really good for Oklahoma. I think him helping teach other guys helps him learn it even more and let them know exactly what's going to happen, how they feel comfortable in certain situations. And so you feel really high about it, and you're going to have Michael Hawkins Jr. if he actually gets on the field this season. I mean, he played in a very big game for you in the bowl game, in the Auburn game, and did really well in those scenarios. So, I mean, I feel really good about the quarterback room as a whole, and that's where I'm at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always never want to make it seem like I'm trying to let myself off the hook. I thought Jackson Arnold was going to be great, right? And I think most people did. I was frankly, Jackson's year last year has me more shaken in my confidence in like anybody being good. Because I mean, I was completely in. And going back to seeing him in high school and what he did at Denton Geyer and obviously the Elite 11, all that stuff, I was more than in on Jackson Arnold being a star in college football. And again, as Venable said himself, it wasn't all his fault last year. He was set up to fail, certainly. And I'm optimistic for him at Auburn with more talent around him, some more weapons, a good offensive coach in Hugh Freeze, that he could be okay, right? And he still has a lot of potential. That being said, the feel coming out of fall camp last year, we haven't even got to fall camp this year, but even going back to last spring, was it's not going great, right? I mean, Jackson is struggling in practice, a lot of turnovers, and there was always questions about like, does he have the leadership ability? And that's just his personality, right? He's a little more soft spoken, he's a little more of a quiet guy, which is fine, right? But John Mateer has stepped in and has just done everything you could hope for to this point. We talked about it on Friday. Like he's just answered the bell in every way, and you got to do it in games. But it's hard not to feel really confident in this guy, and it is amazing, frankly, the national kind of hype around him. I mean, I mentioned it, Heisman hype. I know he didn't get an all SEC selection, but there are more than a few media people who are thinking that this guy can be like an all SEC type of quarterback this season and be a guy who can lead Oklahoma to the playoff this year. Like that's something that is being talked about openly in college football, landscape right now. So Yeah, hard not to be much more confident. And Michael Hawkins, too. I mean, Brent Venables talked about in the spring that he feels like Hawkins has improved more, and this is back in April, improved more in the spring than he did all the previous year. Like Ben Arbuckle, by all accounts, has been great for Michael Hawkins, too. And he was just a kid last year. He's a true freshman, right? Got thrown out there. So, that's a solid backup option if something were to happen to Mateer. And I still think there's a lot of, obviously, future potential for Michael Hawkins. So, hard not to feel better about this room relative to last year. And again, going into last year, I don't know if anybody thought it was going to be what it was, but you have to feel pretty good. And the proven production for John, not in the SEC, but proven production last year certainly makes you feel better about it too.
I just think there was some confidence loss for Jackson Arnold himself because
totally
of
fake.
so yeah. I mean, you watched what he did in the Alamo game and thought everything was pretty fine. You saw what he did against Tulsa when he had the short stint. He came in and he looked fine there as well. So like he had those moments where he looked really good, but over the season it just got worse. You know what I mean? Overall, so that's what it was overall. I think for Jackson Arnold, but you're gonna have a different offensive line this time. You have a guy that has all the confidence in the world. It seems like with all the moxie that he's bringing to the team, that's going to help out so much with everything they want to do this season. So that's where I see it too.
Yeah, and there's a lot riding on John Mateer's shoulders this season. And it's not all him, but as the face of a new look offense, like he is going to be the one that's elevated up when things go good, and he's going to be the one that's going to be, kind of getting criticism when, the offense maybe isn't rolling at times. But he's embracing it. He said he doesn't feel the pressure, because he has high expectations of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of welcomes it. I mean, he's still kind of adjusting to all the attention. Just, again, he was a 3-star recruit. His only real major offer coming out of high school was Washington State, and that's a pretty remote outpost out there. Wasn't getting a lot of attention outside of those late night games where the real sickos were watching late Saturday nights. But I mean, look, since he's gotten here, the hype and kind of expectations have only kind of steadily inclined. He's drawn a lot of comparisons already to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Baker himself spoke on Saturday before his youth football camp in Norman, saying, he's like, I see a lot of these similarities, the way they both kind of wear their emotions on their sleeves, the way they kind of lead, vocally and just through their play, and obviously there's some similarities in their game, and you look at their paths too. But he's like, look, I don't think John Mateer is going to try to beat me. He's going to be his own guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do, especially because of that relationship with Ben Arbuckle. He was like, when the quarterback and the offensive coordinator have that pre-existing built-in rapport, it's only going to help the offense. So we'll see how it goes, but there's obviously a lot riding on Oklahoma's bet on John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle this season.
Yeah, Josh, I was referencing the Tulsa game for Jackson Arnold because of that.
I was just adding the BYU game also. He had to come in for Gabriel and got that win.
Yeah,
it was was it Arkansas or no? Was it Arkansas State his freshman year when he came in, completed all 11 passes in his first game?
That's true.
Yeah.
Like 11 of 11 for 115 yards and a touchdown.
Arkansas State like 70.
Yeah, the hype was being built right there.
What a world. Oklahoma scoring 70. Couldn't even fathom that last year.
Like 7 of those passes going to Jaquez Petaway.
Yeah. That didn't quite work out. I mean, and that was crazy about the pressure thing on Mateer is there is just an outrageous amount. I mean, we're basically, fair or not, it's not fair, but it's the way it is. It's like, okay, John, go save OU football. I mean, right? I mean, like, go be Baker Mayfield. Like, that's what everyone is hoping for and kind of expecting. Like, this guy's going to come in and basically single-handedly turn everything around. And it's not literally going to be all on him. You got Ben Arbuckle. It's a whole new offense in a lot of ways. But, like, at the end of the day, it all falls at his footsteps. That's being the quarterback, right? So the pressure is outrageous, as much as anyone in the country this year, any single player, really. And he's handling it amazingly so far. But, again, when the games actually start, it's a different animal. And so we'll see how it goes. All right, so 1 to 10, confidence level. You can use decimal points. I will. I'm going to get real exact on this thing. 1 to 10, and it's on the whole room. It's not just Mateer. Obviously, he's a little more weighted in this because he's the starting quarterback. But 1 to 10 confidence level in the position group. Tom, you can start it off. We'll let James start running backs, and then I'll kick it off next week. But QBs, go ahead, Tom. Get us going.
Yeah, this is probably one of the units I'm probably most confident in,
Sure.
just because of Mateer and that relationship with Ben Arbuckle. And I think as long as he stays healthy, that he is going to deliver. I don't know if his numbers are going to be as gaudy as they were last year at Washington State, but I still expect him to put up big numbers. I'll go with a 9, I guess.
Not real confident in that 9, but okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to gauge just because, like,
No, it is.
Again, I'm a believer in John Mateer. Like, I had him on my preseason All SEC ballot. I think he's extremely talented. He's obviously got some moxie to his game, and kind of that gunslinger approach. And again, the familiarity with Ben Arbuckle is huge.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're looking at the quarterback position, it's hard not to factor in everything else around it, because we saw how poorly things can go when one or two of those other spots around it aren't excelling or healthy or something. But assuming that everything doesn't go wrong like it did last season, I have a lot of confidence in John Mateer elevating this offense to a much higher level than where it was last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where I'm at. I was going to put 9 as well, but just because, like you said, John Mateer bringing this offense over. I mean, that is a very big situation for a quarterback to have that and come over and help teach the guys what he wants to run and things like that. I mean, that's huge. And I know it's supposed to be the entire room as a whole, but I just don't think there's an Ohio State like run where it's 3 different quarterbacks and can all start on a football team and be great anymore. And like I said, you saw a little bit of Michael Hawkins being out there, and I think you would feel comfortable in certain situations with Michael Hawkins going out there if he needed to as well. So I think just having that together, it's a really good offensive room. I think that's the way I see it. Offensive quarterback room, that's the way I see it. So yeah. I think 9 is pretty good.
Yeah, and kind of going back off of what Josh said earlier about Whit Neubauer, I think in a perfect world, you'll see Michael Hawkins a few times, but in a perfect world, you let him redshirt this year. So that he can step in, still have that extra year of eligibility and step into that role, assuming John Mateer's gone after this season. So I think you feel comfortable with Michael Hawkins in there if something happens to John Mateer, but you don't want to have to rely on him a ton this season if you can avoid it.
Yeah, you won't have to necessarily bring him in to run the football in short yardage situations. That's what hurt the first time.
That was bad.
And you presumably won't have to pull your quarterback before halftime of the SEC.
You hope not. You certainly hope not. Yeah, and that's the other, like you said, hand the keys to Hawkins. That's the thing that doesn't get talked about that much because we're focused on this year. It's year to year right now, but John Mateer's got 2 years, which is another thing that's kind of interesting. Does he jump to the NFL after this year? What kind of year does he need to have to want to do that? It's interesting. It's very interesting. For me, I'm right with you guys. I mean, I'm going to go a tick lower. 8.8 is what I had in my mind. Contrarian, I guess. Frankly, I'm in on Mateer. Don't get me wrong. I got burned last year. Like I talked about before. I'm a little shaken. And frankly, he's done everything you can. He's got the relationship with Ben Arbuckle. This is on paper, really, you could talk me into like a high 9, like a 9.5 or something. But to be fair to just everything, he has done the SEC, right? He was at Washington State last year. Didn't play competition anywhere near what he will face this year for the most part, right? I mean, at Wazoo, they were in the Pac-2 last year, right? I mean, they weren't playing big-time teams. They also didn't have big-time talent around him, so you have to make that adjustment. I'm very high on Mateer. I think he's going to be really good. I didn't get to, we had the press conference with him back at the very beginning of spring. And then he talked again during spring camp, and I wasn't there. It was right when my daughter was being born. So it was the first time I had really gotten to talk to him was at media days last week. And I certainly came away like, this guy's convincing me. Like, he's winning me over. Not that I wasn't in, but like he's getting me. And so I'm in on him being the guy. But it is asking a lot, right? Also for this guy to come to Washington State, come to Oklahoma, and just totally revolutionize everything. And not that 8.8 is not high, because it is. So I'm very confident, but I'll reserve like something in the 9s for if he's back the next year after a good year, sort of a thing. But I'm very confident in John Mateer, and it's going to be fun. I'm excited. We didn't get a spring game, right? So I haven't really seen him play in person, really, obviously, other than just practice throwing it around. So I'm excited for the opener for a lot of reasons, but probably just to see Mateer actually play. Probably number 1 for excitement level for the opener. So
I think for it to even be a successful season, he's going to have to play at this rating that we're giving him of a 9. I think it has to be that anyway for it to be Just because, like we talked about the difficulty of this schedule,
Yeah,
it has to play at that high level for Oklahoma to be very successful this year.
no doubt. So, sticking on offense, we talked about John Mateer, obviously the single biggest portal addition of the offseason. No, nothing's going to touch that. Second one's probably Jay Knott and the running back room. This is a weird position to talk about because it wasn't a problem last year. They kind of lacked explosive plays. They couldn't really run the ball for most of the season, but it's hard to put that on the running backs necessarily. It's always a weird one to kind of dissect. Gavin Sawchuk moves on. He's gone. But you retain Javonte Barnes. Obviously, Xavier Robinson came on at the end of the year, was great in that Alabama upset. He's back. Taylor Tatum, number one running back in the class going into last year. He is back, did some nice things, kind of has faded back a little bit, it seems like, in that room, but he's certainly back. And like I just mentioned, you went and got Jaden Ott in the post-spring portal, who's one of the big splash gets of the offseason, seemingly adds a dynamic that they just didn't have before in that home run ability we talked about on Friday, that just big, like out of nowhere can rip a 70-yarder and score. Don't know if they had that before. They've added that now with Jaden Ott. Guys, on paper, this running back room looks really good. What do we think here? I mean, again, it's kind of the same group back, only you swapped out Sawchuk for Ott, which seems like an upgrade, obviously. So I think fair to be pretty confident DeMarco Murray's position group, I believe, right, coming into this year with Ott in there.
Yeah, it's kind of strange when you look at last year's group. But like you said, I don't think they were bad.
Right.
They just underperformed because
it just didn't help
like
a lot. Right?
Gavin Sawchuk was hampered like the first half of the season with that. I think it was a hamstring or a quad strain. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Javonte Barnes missed like the last 5 games with his injury.
Yeah.
And then the other guys in there were freshmen because you also had Sam Franklin, but he wasn't. Let's be honest, he wasn't an SEC caliber guy that could get like 10, 15 carries a game out there. He did some nice things in some spots, but Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum were freshmen kind of adjusting to everything. And we obviously saw Xavier Robinson do some really nice things, especially in that Alabama game. And kudos to him for, being open and wearing his red shirt to help the team out down the stretch last season. Taylor Tatum flashed in spots, but ball security was an issue for him. And again, it's hard to be productive at the running back spot when the offensive line was as bad as it was last season.
Right.
But all that being said, they still bring back like 81% of their rushing yards from the running back position from last season while adding Jaden Ott, who, when healthy, was one of the best running backs in college football 2 years ago. So I'm really high on this group. I think that for the first time in a while, we're going to see an actual like bell cow running back there with Jaden Ott. Like he is going to be the guy, and then it's going to be the rest of that group kind of filling in, maybe depending on game, depending on situation. But Jaden Ott is a 3-down back who can kind of do it all. He can, run between tackles. He can break off big plays. Mm-hmm. He can make guys miss. He can run through contact, and he can be a factor in the passing game. So he's going to be your number one guy. I don't think it's going to be like the last couple of years where DeMarco Murray's like, yeah, in an ideal world, like I'd like to have a featured back, but then nobody's getting more than 12, 15 carries a game. You're going to need to rely on a Javonte Barnes who, when healthy, has been very productive. Might not have that big play potential, but he is a reliable back. Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum in year 2, I'm excited to see what they can do. Obviously, I think we're all pretty high on Xavier Robinson's potential, especially as he gets more comfortable. And Taylor Tatum can be a special player if he can fix that ball security issue.
Sure.
Because that just really hurt them last season, with all the fumbles, not just him, but as a team, all the fumbles that they had were out of hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Brent Venables went on stage at the SEC Media Days and talked about, they had to play a lot of freshmen, last season. I think this group of running backs is a big, like a group of that. They were a part of that group that had to play a lot of freshmen. And it's going to give them a lot of experience going into the season when you have Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum, where they had to play in some big spots and were able to produce in certain situations that really give you some confidence. Xavier Robinson in an Alabama game, as we talked about to acknowledge him, that's a really, really good confidence builder for him because you still had a battled, injured offensive line and was able to produce really, really good numbers there. I mean, Javonte Barnes coming back and being healthy, I think being a leader in that room and actually helping Jaden Ott out with the transition over to Oklahoma, as Brent Venables talked about as well, I think that plays a part when your leader is there and actually being, kind to the new guys and helping them out. It could take a starting spot pretty much overall. So I think it's a good room overall because you got Jay Nod who can be just that playmaker that you need. Like that, you
Mhm.
just wasn't able to see a lot of these guys make that first guy miss and break away. I think we didn't see that a lot last season. So Jay Nod is a guy that can do that. So I think, as I've said plenty of times, it's a multi-talented group where in certain situations you can throw, Xavier Robinson in here, you can throw in Tater Tatum here, and it's like you could work out any situation that you have with this group of guys. So I like this group a lot.
Yeah, hard not to be really confident. Ott also adding another dimension to the passing game too that they don't
Yeah,
really didn't really have last year. I wouldn't say. So he's checks a lot of boxes, and like Tom said, I mean, you're bringing back the vast majority of your production anyway, and then you're adding Ott to it. So hard not to be really confident in what they have here, and also not. I mean, be remiss if you didn't bring up too Torrey Blaylock, who is a freshman, probably
see,
not like in the plans, but reviews have been very positive for Tory so far. I mean, his first spring and everything. So like, I don't want to discount him. We did this last year with Xavier Robinson. Frankly, and I again extenuating circumstances with the way the year kind of went, but we went into last year not really expecting X to really have much of a role. Like, yeah, he's a
yeah,
true freshman, probably redshirt, and then he ended up being great at the very end of the year, right? So I don't want to overlook Torrey Blaylock either as a guy that, could be in the mix here, right, at some point also. So hard not to be really confident. And again, John Mateer is your big portal yet. You're not going to be able to match your starting quarterback. But Jay Knott is the next one as far as portal additions this offseason. I mean, he's, went in the post spring, and you mentioned Tom, future running back. This is another one where I think that probably Jim Nagy, if he has any say, which I assume he does, is probably going to say, like, no, like, you're giving that guy the ball. Like, I went and I got him. This is a Nagy guy, right? We talked about that at the time. This is a guy that Jim Nagy identified even back when he was at the Senior Bowl. I like this guy. They got in the spring portal and they went and they acquired him for a pretty reasonable like price relatively. And now, like, if he has any say, which he does, I think he's going to be featured, in the offense. So a lot to like here. Confidence level, 1 to 10 on the running back room. James, you can get us started this time. I think we're going to probably have high scores again here. I don't really know a lot to poke holes in with this group, to be honest.
hmm
What do you got?
I got 8.5 for this running back room. I know I can't go as high as the quarterback because there's no I don't necessarily think there's a Heisman candidate in the room, but like I said, there's a
Sure.
lot of different good pieces that you could fill in different certain situations. So that's why I have it 8.5. Really feel really good about the running back room and what they can bring this year, especially as a healthy group. They're all healthy and going in full steam ahead. It's going to be a really, really good year for them.
Am I going? I guess I should go, huh?
Is it? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I
you.
was waiting for Tom, but that doesn't make sense. I'm higher. I'm high. I'm going to go 9.25 for me. Frankly, it could even be higher than that. My one question, if I were to have one, would probably be health. I mean, Ott was banged up last year. He wasn't nearly as productive last year as he was the year before, and that was because of health. So we just talked about it. Barnes was beat up a lot last year. Even Tatum was hurt for a while last year as well. So just kind of, can we keep the room healthy? That would probably be a little bit of a question mark because, again, you're talking about 3 of the 4 guys we just mentioned missed time last year or at least ailed for stretches. But I love the room. I don't really have a lot of complaints. I mean, again, you bring in Ott to be your number 1 guy. He can catch passes. He can go long runs. Barnes is a great number 2 back and a veteran in that room. X-Rob and Tatum have all the potential in the world. And, like, we're not betting on a lot of potential here. Like, really, these guys we've seen it. Like, they've all kind of done it in games. And in Ott's case, a full season. His season 2 years ago, I mean, just incredible numbers at Cal 2 years ago when they were still in a Power 5. Actually, they were last year, too. I always forget that Cal was in the ACC. It was totally – I memory hold that every single time. But, yeah, I'm really high, 9.25. I love the room. It might be the best position on the offense. In fact, I'm quite certain it is in my personal rankings here. I'm in. Yeah.
9.25. Hold on, Tom.
9.25. That's fair. 9.25.
Why not just go 9.3? I mean, where's the
That's a little too high. 9.25 is where I settle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with Josh. I have it a little bit higher than the quarterback position. I'm going 9.2. I'm a believer in Jaden Ott. I think he is a NFL caliber running back. I think if he stays healthy, that room is going to be ridiculous. Again, you need the offensive line to improve its blocking.
Sure.
You need the pieces around them to stay healthy too. But acquiring Jaden Ott was huge. Jim Nagy's first real big splash move as GM, and then bringing back a guy like Javante Barnes, who, again, when he's been healthy, he's been very productive. Doesn't necessarily have the big play potential as a Jaden Ott, but he's a real reliable guy. And then again, I think the promise that you saw from an Xavier Robinson and from a Taylor Tatum, just from a talent standpoint, and some of the things that they were able to do as true freshmen in the SEC is impressive. And when you're not going to have to rely on those guys to be your number one option, I really like them as complementary parts behind a guy like Jaden Ott. So I agree with Josh. Like, I think, top to bottom, this is probably the best position on the offense this season. I still think John Mateer is the best player on the offense, but Jaden Ott's not far behind.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I just compare it in my mind to, and this is pre-Sooners Illustrated, but in 2021, I remember going into that year where they had 2 running backs. It was like, we have 2 running backs. If one of these guys gets hurt, they're in trouble. And they actually end up getting through the year without that issue, which is a miracle. But you still have that problem this time. I mean, you're deep. You got high-end talent at the top. You got young talent coming up. I mean, it's a good room. Good room. Not a lot.
You got speed and size too. I mean,
I know it's like it's
guys
a good mix. I mean, really, not a lot to complain about. I could have went higher, honestly. I'm in on the running back room. All right, cool. That's the first 2 position previews. We'll obviously keep it rolling next week. We'll do wide receivers and tight ends. Tight end, heavily discussed. We'll see. I'm very curious how that goes. And then wide receiver, just like a totally different room outside of Deion Burke. So we'll get into all that next week. We'll keep doing 2 every Monday. It'll take us right up to week 1. Where we'll then, kind of set the stage for the season, which will be here for you know it. But before we go, I did one more thing I want to talk about. We were very positive just now, so let's be a little negative. Let's be a little pessimistic for a minute. Biggest concern this season. This is something that we were going to talk about a few weeks ago, and then Joe C retired, and just kind of like, let's bump that combo for later. When you're an OU fan and you're feeling good, right? I mean, you're feeling confident right now. And I think it's fair to feel confident. Like I said, I'm starting to buy in a little, which is scary. What worries you the most, though? As we get ready to start fall camp next week, if you're an OU fan, what's keeping you up at night? If the season were to go sideways, what are the things that would make it go sideways? For you guys, biggest concern with this Oklahoma team right now as we get ready to go into fall camp and start the season? If it could be obviously something specific, a position or more macro, I mean, whatever it may be, what's your biggest concern with Oklahoma right now?
Yeah, man, I think there's a few areas you can really look at. I mean, like we discussed, the offensive line was really bad this season, and you're bringing back a lot of guys that were younger but got some experience last year. So the question is, can they take that next step? And I think there's a lot of belief that this will be a much improved offensive line this year. Obviously, the wide receiver core was decimated by injuries, and it's a new look group, and still dealing with a couple guys that are working their way back right now. But because we've hammered those things throughout the offseason, I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball, and my biggest concern going into the season is the health of Gentry Williams.
Yep.
He's healthy right now, but he's missed a lot of time the last 2 years. And look, Eli Bowen showed great things as a true freshman, showed he's capable of being that number one, lockdown corner in the SEC, put the cuffs on Ryan Williams, one of the best receivers in America in that Alabama game. I have confidence in Eli Bowen. I have questions about that number 2 corner spot. I think if Gentry Williams can stay healthy, he's look, we've seen what he can do when he's healthy. We saw it in that Texas game 2 years ago, what kind of difference maker he can be. But if he's not healthy, it's like, who's that number 2 guy? I think Jacoby Johnson has promise, but again, until this spring, he never really got to, just focus on honing his skill at cornerback because he split time at wide receiver last season. Cortland Guillory is a guy that obviously Brent Venables has been very high on. They got a bunch of other young pieces in that room too. But to me, the big question is who's going to be that number 2 if a Gentry Williams cannot stay healthy. So yeah, to me, the biggest concern is that number 2 spot, and that really relies on the health of Gentry Williams going into this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think injuries is a big part of it. I mean, it's. I feel like it's a cop out, but after you saw what Oklahoma did last season, with
just health in general.
Yeah, it's just like that could be the biggest thing to sway this entire thing. I mean, so it's just really want to see that be an improvement. How are they going to handle practices? You saw that they seemed like they were working more on beefing themselves up when you saw the initial like weight different weights that came out
right.
just previously. So that should help in the SEC with as hard of a league as it is. That's got to be one of the biggest things for me. As a position group, it's still the tight ends. I still don't have confidence there. I'm not really
Right.
entirely sure who the starting guy is going to be. It seems like it changes every time we talk about it or hear something else from different coaches. There's a different battle going on. So like just who's going to be there? I mean, what's going to happen there? And if I give one more, it's like, what if
Sure.
this John Mateer experiment doesn't work? What if it doesn't translate over? Like that is a really big concern because as we said, he's pretty much has to be the savior of this offense. What if it doesn't? I mean, I feel like we all are up here assuming that it will just because of what we've seen, but there's always a chance. So I think that plays a
Yeah.
part into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think worst case scenario for Oklahoma this season is that the bet on John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle just
That's doomsday.
is dooms. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think even if they struggle, they're going to be better than this offense was last season. But no, I agree. Like worst case scenario is the offense just folds.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And I agree totally. I mean, how can you not be concerned about health? I mean, after last year, I mean, I think everyone is worried about that. Even in spring, there was a couple injuries, nothing crazy, but I mean, Giovanni Gibson broke his leg, right? I mean, that's a freak thing, but like it just keeps happening. So it's like health overall is definitely up there. The schedule, I don't know. I go back and forth if the schedule is tougher than last year or not, but the schedule, I mean, it is tough. I mean, they could be far better than last year, far better, and still only win 7 games because the schedule is brutal, right? So I don't know. I mean, that's certainly one. But probably for me, chief among everything, we're 3 years in. I mean, this is year 4 for Brent Venables. The biggest concern, do they know how to win? Like, I mean, they're putrid in close games the last 3 years. The amount of losses of games that they should not have lost is really high. You know, even 2 years ago when they won 10 games, I mean, both losses were rough, right? And so more than likely, they're going to be in a lot of close games this year, and that's going to define their season. Can they gut out a close win in the fourth quarter? Can they get a drive when they need it? Can they get a stop when they need it? They haven't really done that a lot the last few years. So probably my biggest concern above everything, because I think they're going to be much better, is just do they know how to win close games? Because they just haven't. They've done it some, but far too many times the last few years we've seen them we get to the end and James and I are shooting instant reaction, or Tom and I, and we're saying, how did they lose that game? How did they manage to blow that? And so that's the thing that's hard to quantify. And that's the thing that I think when national media are high on OU, which is fair, that, do they really appreciate some of the losses that we've seen the last couple of years? That Kansas game 2 years ago still blows my mind. I have no idea how they managed to lose that. After Ethan Downs got that interception and they had the ball, like how? They had 4th and whatever it was, 15. Like they just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory so many times that, I got to kind of see it to really fully buy in on this team winning 9-10 games, right? So
I mean, I think we know how they lost both those games that year, and he's currently in Starkville, Mississippi, running the show.
Yeah, true. And Danny Stubbs missed those games too. It doesn't help, but
that's what I always point to is Danny Stubbs being out. Yeah,
but they had them.
Yeah. The offense was just inexplicable late in those games, just not having a feel for how to run their stuff and at the right tempo situationally kind of doom them in those games.
No doubt. There's many concerns, but there are lots of reasons genuinely to feel optimistic. And I'm a sucker for it. I'm kind of buying in again. I'm going back and forth on what I'm going to actually settle on whenever we have 5 weeks to get there. But like, what am I going to actually settle on as far as final record prediction and all that stuff? I do think they're going to be good though. I'm kind of buying in, but we'll see. There are fair concerns as well. I think that's it. Again, I'm going to bring it up again. Let me get it up there. Sooners Pod 60. Subscribe. Oklahoma247sports.com. Sooners Pod 60. 60% off an annual subscription right now to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network. Obviously, still a lot of recruiting stuff still going on. Fall camp is about to start, though, so it's a perfect time to be a part of the community, the start of the season. It's going to be a fun year, one way or another. It's going to either be chaos or it's going to be great. I feel like there's going to be no in between here. So subscribe, be with us, Sooners Pod 60 over at Sooners Illustrated. I think that's it for now.
Don't all subscribers get the entire every team, they get access to
Oh yeah,
every
yeah.
single
You can
board. So
log
like
in any of them.
you
Yeah,
can read all of that stuff too. How this team is handling their situations. I mean, all that stuff
it's great.
is available with this one
All the
subscription. Yeah,
national stuff. Yeah, all that.
it's a good deal.
No doubt. So again, subscribe Sooners Pod 60 right now, 60% off with that promo code. Do it, do it, do it. That's it for now. Be back with Colin later this week. I haven't talked to him in a little while because we kind of flipped the schedule around, so we'll have to catch up on some various recruiting stuff. Be back the three of us next Monday. We'll, like I said, continue our position preview series with wide receivers and tight ends, and we'll preview fall camp because practice is going to start. Fall camp, what are we watching for? What are the big storylines of fall? There are many. We'll sift through some of them next week on the program, and then by this time 2 weeks from now, we'll be hopefully have seen maybe a practice or two, talk to Venables, talk to players, and we'll kind of be off and running from there. So great time of year. That's it for now. Again, Sooners Pod 60. Subscribe to Sooners Illustrated. Back later this week with Colin Kennedy. For Tom Green, James E. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off for now. We'll see you next time right back here on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.